I'm Vanessa Louise. Welcome to Choose You, Choose Bliss, where we believe in one goal, one purpose, love. Through shared experiences, we aim to enlighten, enrich and enroll you in actively applying the tools and techniques to enable and continue healing for your whole self. Now is the time to take back our power, reconnect with our true selves, each other, including the world around us, and live life with confidence, purpose and joy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing you. As ever, it's an absolute blessing to be sharing space with you all today. And today we're talking about 12 steps for real life. You know those people when you meet them for the first time that you just know you're going to love them? That's this person for me. My guest today is the epic Andrew King. He's epic for a few reasons. One, he's an example of what you see is what you get. And in today's veneered world, that to me is refreshing. Another reason is in my book, anyone who overcomes their demons and uses their learnings to help others for the greater good is simply epic. So thank you, Andrew, for joining me today in what I'm certain will be an entertaining yet profound conversation.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. You've got such a lovely beaming face. It's going to be a distraction for me, I know. So let's begin with where you were in life when you weren't feeling quite so epic.
Yeah, my face for radio. When I wasn't feeling quite so epic. Yeah. Throughout life, I spent a lot of time on the outside looking fun and successful and happy, but on the inside, often feeling lonely, often feeling failing and not enough. No one was telling me those things. They were all from within. And just over 2 years ago, I embarked on a journey of recovery from alcoholism, having managed to take a steady decline from a young age in my early teens to my early 50s, recognizing that alcohol was a problem. And then taking a step into the world of 12-step recovery in January 23.
Amazing.
And I'm now approaching 18 months, I think, of continuous sobriety.
Amazing.
So on the whole, feeling a bit better about stuff. Recovery is not an easy journey.
No.
And when you've had a 40-year drinking career, which I did have,
I love that.
You know, I got quite good at it, and sometimes I say to people I was a professional that retired early.
Yeah, well, I've heard you talk about that before, because actually when you talk about that steady decline, that's what it is for all of us, isn't it? If we don't recognize it, because your drinking career, when you say that, when you do something over and over and over and over again, you get better at it. And we're not talking about whether that's good or bad here. We're just saying that that's a fact. And the steady decline, it's like anything, an incline or a decline. You don't notice it quite so much when it's that steady.
No. I started my drinking career at quite a high bar. From a young age, as young as 15, was regularly drinking 10 plus pints of beer more than once a week. So that's pretty young to start with, and and I was that kid who was seeing off adults drinking, and that was big and clever at the time.
Well, that's the thing, we see it as that, don't we? Big and clever.
Because we're conditioned to introduce alcohol to everything that we do, right? When we're happy, when we're sad, when we're celebrating, when we're mourning, when we're winning, when we're losing, when we're deliberating, when we're worrying, we introduce alcohol. Weddings, funerals, bar mitzvahs, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we're supposed to do. Oh, come on, sit down, have a drink.
Yeah. Well, in its isolation, absolutely. But it's like anything in moderation. Once it then starts to become out of control, that's when obviously it's a
Yeah,
problem.
look, in my drinking, I wasn't an everyday drinker.
Mm,
I didn't have the awful scenario of having to get up of a morning and take a drink. I was
mm,
very fortunate I didn't get there, and I was quite happy to leave it alone for
mm,
short periods, a few days a week sometimes,
mm,
and dry January and extended periods of abstinence. But it was abstinence; it wasn't sobriety. Okay,
mm,
um, and so it's easy to stop, but staying stopped is it was the challenge
mm,
for me. And the problem shows itself at the point that I take a drink,
mm.
because I'm quite happy not to have a drink, but at the point that I take a drink, I can't stop.
Right.
And
Okay.
and until it's night's time,
Mm, mm.
so so to the outside world, I just look like a bloke that enjoys a drink and drinks more than the average bloke.
Got you.
But
And like you
when
say, on the outside, you did that well.
very good at it, and people say, "Oh, go out with Kingy. He's great fun to be with. He
Mm,
enjoys a drink." And we might go and meet up and have a drink somewhere, and everybody goes home.
mm,
Now, the difference between those people and people like me is they're going home and going to bed. I'm going home and carrying on,
mm. Okay.
and until we can get to oblivion.
You took the words right out of my mouth,
Yeah,
oblivion. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
because we typically have a noisy head,
Yes.
and that noise gets to us, and we've got to make it go away.
Yeah.
So
Until you literally in that oblivion state, but then the noise doesn't exist when you're unconscious.
gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
So as and I didn't learn what blackout was until I came into recovery, because I thought blackout, because people describe being blackout drunk.
Mm.
I took that as being the point where you've passed out.
Yes.
And it's not actually. It's at the point that you drink where you cannot remember. So to the outside, it would look like you're functioning normally, and you're engaging in conversation, and whilst you might be drunk, but inside you've got no recollection of that taking place. And my blackout point actually became very early. A few beers, and the following day I couldn't tell you what we were doing last night.
I
So I
wonder.
would go
Oh,
and meet friends. They go, "God, that was brilliant last night, wasn't it?" And I go, "I don't know, was it?"
was it?
And
Oh my
I go,
gosh.
they go, "But you weren't drunk, wasn't I?" And I'll have no memory of most of the evening.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know, things like sporting events. This is a good one, and this is ridiculous. Going paying all that money to go and watch England play at Twickenham, for example,
Yeah.
having a great day,
Yeah. In inverted commas.
right? Drinking shitloads of gin and tonics on the train going there,
Mm,
having 627 pints of Guinness or however many was required, and then the gin and tonics on the way home.
yeah.
And then having to get up on the Sunday morning, first of all, check my phone. One,
Yeah.
what time did I come home?
Yeah.
Two, how did I get home?
Yeah.
Three, can I check the score from yesterday's game because I can't remember it?
Can't remember it.
Four, probably have to watch the game again, because when I go out this afternoon and see friends at the cricket club,
Yeah.
um, I'm going to have to have watched it when someone says, "Good game, wasn't it?" Because otherwise I'll be going, "I don't know."
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And it's madness to get there. So, having experienced lots of that, say 40-year career of it, I decided 2 years ago, enough's enough.
Good for you. And just
Yeah.
on that note, actually, do you know what? Sadly, I think there's going to be a few of us that can relate to that blackout thing. So I would like that to just be something that maybe if that is you, then please listen. We're not making any claims here or any judgments, but you will find the next part of our conversation, I think, really helpful, because I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And I know I can categorically, hand on my heart, say that's definitely been me at a time or two, blackout. So I might not have fallen over, but I definitely. So I'm looking forward to the next part of this conversation. We've chatted because this has been my experience too with addiction. Um, and living with addiction is, let's just call it, particularly unlovely, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Damaging, destructive, destroys so many areas of our lives. But you and I have chatted at length about how powerful the steps are. And one of the conversations we had was when I became aware of the 12 steps when my ex-husband went into recovery, who, pleased to say that now you both are connected and looking to support each other, which is great. When I became aware of the 12 steps, I remember looking at them thinking, oh my gosh, everybody needs to know these 12 steps. This isn't just for alcoholics, drug addicts, people with eating addictions or whatever. There's hundreds of addictions you could be in recovery from. These are fundamentally profound steps that everybody could benefit from if they understood what they were. So when we decided to do this conversation, I wanted to bring your wisdom and experience of the 12 steps to life, and you have rewritten them beautifully. And I would love you to take us through them each.
So the 12 steps, and it took me a while to get my head around these in recovery, and I think it was my first 6 to 8 months recovery were challenging because I couldn't get my head around these things. In a 12-step fellowship, we hear the word God quite a lot, and we don't mean that in a religious sense. We just mean as a thing that's greater than we are. And then having had the privilege of having somebody with more experience than myself help take me through these 12 steps so I can gain and understand them. And it's worth pointing out at this point, these 12 steps are not completed. Right?
No.
The 12 steps are a way of living. And we hear people talk about, oh, I've done the steps. You haven't done the steps.
You've worked through the process of and continue to live them.
Yeah, correct. And we've got some of those steps are we do as in a coming into recovery, and steps 1, 2, and 3 we would say that admitted we were powerless, and accepting that there's something great in ourselves that will help us. And then we have a cleansing kind of steps 4 to 9. Which is kind of getting rid of the baggage that we carry around with us that might lead us to have bad feelings, fears and resentments. And then we have a maintenance program of steps 10 to 12, how we try and live our lives. But it's not a finished process.
No, we're not, are we?
No, correct, right? So I hear people in recovery say, I've finished the steps. And all the practice is that a sponsor, someone who is more sobriety than oneself, will guide you through the steps and help you understand each step and impart some wisdom as to how we should live with that particular step.
Love it.
So in recovery, I have a daily reprieve from my illness, and I can choose to not have a drink today. And we'll keep it in today, and we talk about one day at a time.
And just for today is a phrase used a lot in the recovery movement, isn't it?
Yeah. Just for today, one day at a time. And then having gone through the steps, what struck me is there's lots of stuff in there that lends itself so well to everyday living, and it struck me that we could do with teaching everybody this as a process, because we ought to end up with a lot less angry people. And we were talking in our pre-chat, right? We're preconditioned to prove ourselves right. And I know from living that there's no winners in proving someone's wrong.
No, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't we? And if we're all honest and reflect, when we're presented with something that we don't quite agree with, we actually go to quite some extent to show that person's wrong.
Because of our egos, because of our old story that we're not enough. And you spoke about that at the top of the call. We all have an inside narrative, an inside feeling of failing, where we feel lonely because we're disconnected from ... whatever you call that energy to be, that presence. But we all, as human beings, naturally, by definition of being a human being, have an underlying story that we are either not enough or we're not worthy, we are unlovable. It just manifests differently. So therefore, you are constantly going to struggle unless you become aware that you can do something about it from the inside. But if you believe that story, you're always going to need to prove exactly.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, for me, my feelings were of less than, right?
Mm,
Is a bit of an oxymoron, given those people that know me see me as someone that's very confident and forthright and gets stuff done and looks to win. But
yeah.
yeah, all of that on the outside isn't reflected on the inside,
Or is it
right?
fair to say, because my work came from these steps? I
Yeah.
wanted to help people feel better about themselves from the outside, right? But this work with these steps helped me reshape my life, and I now help people feel better from the inside. Is it fair to say that um, outward going, fun loving, winning kind of character that you are, the energy and soul, life and soul of the party, has come from a less than inner feeling to compensate?
Yeah, well, it's I've found it throughout life. I found it easier to make myself feel better about myself by
Mm,
helping other people
yes.
rather than helping myself.
Okay. Right.
And interestingly, in August 23, where I properly entered recovery,
Mm,
having got to an emotional rock bottom, with uh, a near life taking incident, like
mm,
I can't do this anymore. To be able to finally surrender to work a proper program. One of the things I had to do was to prioritize myself and my recovery over everything,
yeah.
right?
I'm
And
nodding. Yeah.
right, and that feels counterintuitive. It feels selfish, right? But in
Yes.
order to become the best of me for everyone else, in order for me to have the headspace and the energy to do all of the things that one is expected to do as either a husband or as a partner or in work and supporting others and looking after children, all of those things. If I prioritize me and recovery, all of that comes, right?
Absolutely. Inside out.
Yeah,
Whereas before that, you were helping others rather than yourself. And
yeah,
that defining moment made you realize that only when I put myself first, and you're right, it is seen as selfish, and so it should be. But it's not self-centered, is it? It's
no, it's
centered in
not.
self. Yeah,
Yeah,
centered in self
yeah,
is very different. Love that.
yes.
Brilliant. So you put yourself first.
Yes, I put myself first for recovery, uh, and there's upside to that, right? Because you end up being more well,
Mm, mm,
or less ill, one of the
mm.
two, right?
Yeah, whichever end of the stick you want to look at. Yeah. And more you. That's
Yeah,
why in my introduction, one of the reasons that makes you epic is you are an example of what you see is what you get. The outside tin of Andrew is exactly what you get. And I know nobody's perfect, and I'm not putting you on a pedestal here at
sure.
all, but genuine integrity and your humility and your willingness to be there for others because you are there for you first shines through.
Hmm.
And that is, people play that facade very well. I know I used to, and I can definitely fall into that old program and still be like that. So I love the fact that you've gone through the steps and continue to live the steps as part of a process for living your life.
Yeah, look, and I have to, right?
Mm,
I have to continue my engagement with those 12 steps. I have to
mm,
continue my engagement with helping other people in recovery. I have
mm,
to do service at the meetings that I attend, because that stuff keeps me in the middle of it, right? It
mm,
keeps me with my feet on the ground. Because for this alcoholic, if I don't
mm.
do that stuff, I'll make an excuse not to do it, and it only ends one way,
Absolutely. Yeah,
right?
and not a good way. Not the
Right,
happy, not
and
the happy smiley Andrew. Yeah.
no, and this alcoholic doesn't actually want to not drink, right?
Mm,
Because I enjoy a wine and a beer and all that good
mm,
stuff. But I do have absolute acceptance that I can't drink like a normal person, and I never will be able to drink like a normal person. And on that basis, I can't have a drink.
yeah. So in actual fact, rather than choosing not to drink, you're just choosing you and your wellness and
Yeah.
your vitality and your epicness.
Yeah, and one might describe my drinking as of no consequence, right?
Mm,
Yeah, because I didn't get in fights, I didn't lose my house, my wife, my jobs,
mm.
my cars, no trouble with the police. Blah, blah, blah. You go, well, what's the problem then?
But
What
it's
we don't,
tiring, Andrew.
well, one, it's tiring, and two, it's not until we enter sobriety we will recognize the time and
Mm,
peace of mind that we steal from those people around us, right?
yes.
And those can be family, right? Or
Mm,
they can be friends, or they can
mm,
be work people, and we are stealing time and peace of mind from those people.
yes. I do agree with that. And that's a lovely admission. And there's nothing more powerful than your peace at all. You
Yeah,
know, if people could choose everything they want in the world or peace and to be able to navigate life that way, you would always choose the latter. I don't know
yeah,
anybody that would choose the former. Yeah.
yeah. I can go on trips now and not have to worry about where I'm going to get a drink from.
Yes. Yeah. But that's a lot easier. Yeah.
Cheaper, cheaper.
Cheaper. Yeah. 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 And saving the time, you haven't got to watch the game twice.
Yeah,
Um, Can you then please, in this part of our conversation, would you please go through the 12 steps? And I just wonder if it's do you want me to read out what you've written, and can you please then explain what that means for you?
yeah. Read 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
So number one is to admit, this is your version,
this
okay,
is
which
this
is
is
this is
for living.
modified for every human being on life. And the invitation to our listeners is, does any of this resonate? So the first step is to admit life's challenges. Recognize that life can sometimes feel overwhelming and we can't control everything on our own. Number two, to believe in an inner strength, acknowledge that there's a source of strength whether within ourselves, in others, or in the universe that can guide us through life. And number three is commit to trusting the process. Choose to let go of constant control and trust in the flow of life and the wisdom of greater forces. So they're the first three steps. So that would be, in your word, your admit and acceptance.
Yeah, so those are the bits that just says uh, we're screwed, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah, it's not working. Hold your hands up.
And that's just what I'm really saying in those bits. So in addiction recovery, we would say we admit we are powerless over alcohol, right? And our
Yes,
lives have become unmanageable
yes.
for step one. But those first three are really an admission of that that we can't control everything around us ourselves, that we need to do lots of what we do with the support of others, and understanding that there's stuff around us, and we might refer to it as a higher power.
Mm,
All right, but there's stuff around us that can help. So in fellowship, that might mean, if I'm feeling a bit rough around the edges, not particularly of great mind, I know that I can go to my fellowship and share with my peers that I'm feeling a bit down and out,
mm,
and the strength from that fellowship will help.
yep,
Um, you know,
absolutely.
and there's a power greater than myself in that fellowship, right?
Yes,
And the point of this is we can't run our lives on self,
no.
and accept that stuff goes wrong, right?
Mm, mm,
And we can't always influence the stuff that goes wrong in the same way that we can't always influence the stuff that goes right.
exactly. Yeah,
So accept.
yeah. I love that. And as you speak of that, not only is the Serenity Prayer, I know, really profound in the recovery movement of God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You're waving at me because you've got it tattooed on your inner arm. That prayer, that phrase, that verse, whatever you want to call it, has helped me, and I know so many others, so much to appreciate. And what you just said, we can't always be responsible or have influence over what happens in and around us. But we are 100% responsible of how we respond to that. And that's
Yeah.
what we are in control of. And that's a massive learning that I took from the steps, but also have been able to help my children and now
Yeah.
my clients fully appreciate some stuff you can't control, right? Is what it is. But you are 100% in control. And that's got to be learned again,
Yeah,
hasn't
for
it? That's
sure.
the
For sure.
recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next piece is steps 4 to 9. You can
Okay.
read them shortly, but this is about cleaning house.
Like that. The
All right.
cleansing. Yeah.
This is about getting yourself ready to accept you're going to move forward in life and you're going to try and leave your baggage behind you.
I love that. Okay. So 4 then, the first step of the cleaning section is self-reflection. Take a deep, honest inventory of our thoughts, emotions, and actions, identifying what serves us and what doesn't. And then number 5, open up, share our insights, mistakes, and challenges with someone we trust, fostering connection and accountability. 6, embrace growth, be open to change and let go of attitudes, habits, and beliefs that no longer serve us. 7, act with humility, acknowledge our limitations and ask for guidance when needed, whether from others or from within. Love that one. Make amends. Identify people we may have hurt and areas where we can improve relationships and commit to making things right. And number 9, repair and rebuild. Take meaningful actions to restore harmony in relationships while respecting others' boundaries and readiness to heal. Powerful.
Yeah. So step 4 in recovery, lots of people describe as one of the more challenging steps of recovery. Step 4 is where we document our wrongs of the past. We carry around with us fears. We carry with us resentments that we sometimes hold on to for many, many, many years. And irrationally, when someone mentions a particular thing that happened 20 years ago, we get angry. Right. And the reason that we clear those out in recovery is because those things can often lead us to return to the addiction that we may have been in.
Love that. So it's like a trigger, an attachment that
Yeah.
allows you to slip back. Love that.
So
Okay.
let it so get it written down and let it go. All right. And then having gone through step 4, which is a body of work, and for me it took me about 4 or 5 weeks to document all those things. We talk about fear, resentment, admitting some things from our sexual past, and a general housekeeping of wrongs that we may have done. It's having documented all that, we then go and share it with someone.
Yes.
So I can sit and talk, and that's a few hours conversation. I'll come through my list. So in recovery, that might be with our sponsor. In the world, it could just be a close friend or an ally, and it's really about just getting it out and spoken. And in each of those issues, we try and read and reread until such a point, and we might pray on them, or we might talk about them until such a time that we can say, I've let that go. That's gone. Right.
And just on that point as well, that's a very vulnerable thing to do. So the step 4 in documenting it all is one thing, right?
Yeah.
But to actually then share it with somebody else, that's why it's important that the person that you choose is someone that you trust.
Correct.
Has to be.
Yeah. And it's the ultimate in confidence.
Absolutely. Right. So you are being literally, you're bearing all, right?
Yeah.
You're showing there's like you are literally stripped bare of everything. And that vulnerability, I personally believe, is what is a catalyst for change, growth, evolvement, transformation. And that's the thing I think as human beings we're so scared of. So this is why it's so important, yes, to open up, but to also find the right person to share with that can actually hold the space lovingly, non-judgmentally, so that you feel safe in your sharing. Brilliant.
Yeah. And so in recovery, so I did that with my sponsor, and it's unwritten that's just between him and me, and there are stuff that those of us in recovery will document in these steps that we wouldn't share with our wives and partners, for example.
Yes, of course. They know you
know,
too well. They're probably a bit close.
yeah, yeah. But there's also stuff, that we do stuff in addiction that we prefer those people didn't know about.
That's true. I do get that. Yeah, I do get that.
And that doesn't necessarily mean really, really bad and horrid things, but
Or being secretive necessarily, but
right.
it is about how the person receives it. So
Yeah.
you can, in all good faith, share openly, but it is also about how the other person receives it, which is why, again, why it's important you trust somebody. Yeah, I love it.
And then 6 and 7 are about how we embrace improvement of ourselves and how we try and let go of those things that used to make us angry, being accepting of others around us, that their opinions might not be shared with ours, but also understanding that we don't have to change everyone's mind.
No.
We can accept that someone has a point of view and we don't have to argue against it because there's so little actually that we can influence, right? Because we all certainly for a lot of our lives, we build our parts up, don't we?
Of course.
We see about how we can fix this thing we've actually got no control of, and wouldn't we be a lot more relaxed if, like, I talk about in my recovery that on the whole I'm much more calm, and there are 2 times when I'm not very calm. Which one is when I'm behind the wheel of a car and I'm learning,
okay,
and 2 is when I've got a golf club in my hand.
Okay, yeah, I can relate to both of those
because I play Tourette's golf.
Tourette's golf, I love that.
And then after 7, 8 and 9 are about making amends. So 8 being write a list of those people that we have harmed and what we have done to them. They'll usually come from the step 4 where you've got fears and resentments for people, and it's a willingness to make amends, right? We don't have to go and talk to that person, especially if in the act of making amends it were to make things worse.
That's the other thing you've got to be aware of.
So for me to go and speak to someone that I horribly upset 30 years ago probably actually isn't going to serve any great deal of purpose. So it's beholden on me to be willing to make amends to an individual. And sometimes we write a letter, and sometimes we'll write a letter and not send it.
Yeah, I was going to say, how could you do that? Because also, as well, you might have to make amends, or you'd be willing to make amends to somebody who's passed away.
Yes, and I have done amends at a grave.
Yeah, okay, nice.
Where I've written a thing and I've been to a grave and I've said what I wanted to say.
Brilliant.
But
it's the attitude around it, isn't it? It's I'm willing, and you go through the process regardless of whether the person is here to receive it, be open to it, living or dead, but that you are actually going through the process, so you're clearing out your system.
And it's only amends for my part in whatever the issue is, right?
Yes.
If you and I have fallen out in the past and I'm coming to make amends to you, I am only going to refer to those issues that relate to my behavior, irrespective of however you behave that may have caused me to react. That's none of my business.
No, okay,
right?
I like that.
I am coming to talk to you, Vanessa, because when this thing happened 4 years ago, my part in that was this. And I can describe my part in it, and I can describe how I'm apologizing and how I'm sorry, regretful, remorseful, whatever those emotions are. But it's entirely on my part.
Love that.
However you've behaved in that scenario is not my business.
No.
And because I can't apologize for you, and I can't come with a view of trying to justify how I behaved.
And it's
because then I'm not letting it go, right?
Exactly. Okay.
And then we're on to steps 10, 11, 12, which are steps for living. So if you want to go through those.
I love that. Yeah. And just very quickly, though, actually, you spoke about letting go there. And I think this is a big thing I know in all the conversations I have. Letting go is a real problem. But also, once we've let go of something, it's really key that we replace it with something that we do want to experience. What I call the other end of the stick, isn't it? Yeah. And that, I think, is where these come from. So number 10 is to stay self-aware really key. Regularly reflect on our actions and intentions, promptly addressing any mistakes or missteps. Number 11, seek connection and purpose. Cultivate mindfulness, prayer, or meditation to align with our values and discover deeper meaning in life. And number 12, love this, pay it forward. Share what we've learned, offering encouragement and support to others while living as an example of authenticity and growth.
So, step 10 would be a daily reflection.
Yeah.
What did I do good today? Did I make any mistakes today? And I'm not talking about beating oneself up. All I'm saying, is acknowledging that we might have made a mistake. All right. Yeah. And if I've made a mistake, do I need to apologize for it?
Yeah.
And it is interesting to go back to someone really close to something where in reflection we've gone, I think I dealt with that very well. And to phone them the next day and go, hello, Dave. No, we spoke yesterday. I said so-and-so. I think that came from the wrong place. What I meant was, blah, so I'm sorry if I did. Right.
That's powerful. Really powerful. And it's those little bits that we miss if we're not self-reflective.
Yeah.
And aware.
Yeah.
Right.
And, so step 10, some people write a gratitude list as part of this thing.
Yes.
I don't write a daily gratitude list. Because it's not for me, because if I did that every day, I'd end up thinking it was monotony and I'd get cross at it.
Absolutely. But you've worked out your version
you're correct.
of what this absolutely.
So if you've done something wrong, hold your hands up, say I've done something wrong. And it's okay to say I fucked up, right?
Absolutely. Or even if it's just for you to learn how you might approach the same situation next time better.
Yeah, and it might, some of the stuff that I might document, I might think, well, I got that wrong. Do I need to ring the person? No, I don't.
No, but there is a learning in it for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Step 11, about prayer and meditation. Do we pray into a God? No, not for this person.
Yeah.
Meditating has been something that I found particularly beneficial, and I quite often stick a pair of earphones in at bedtime once I finish watching my telly, and I'll do breathing stuff. No one around knows I'm doing it.
Love it.
And there's something about it that can make me feel a bit better, even if it's an emptying of the mind.
Well, that's exactly what meditation is, right? For me, is to become familiar with that presence in my heart. Yeah, and if I'm there, I've emptied my mind because I'm in my heart. I love that. So powerful, so simple.
And step 12, pay it forward, right? So we share this with others. So we take so in 12 step recovery, we take this to others. We take this message out to other people in order to help others. In this rewritten version, it's about just help.
Well, and making that obvious, you show up willing, and we know you're willing because you're keen, you're always early, and you've always got a big smile on your face. You touch in with people, you care enough, and you're an example of your work. So not only are you consciously paying it forward, but just by being the example, you're paying it forward because people learn from you wherever you are.
Yeah,
I love that.
And that might look like when talking to someone, they'll explain that they're frustrated or something, and my response to them might be, is there anything you can do about it?
Yes.
No. Okay, well, we might as well let it go then.
Let it go. And if there is something you can do about it, then crack on.
What are you going to do?
Yeah,
how are you going to address it?
Yeah, you're very good.
We all spend quite a lot of time worrying about what other people think of us, right? Yeah. And one of the most empowering things that I've done in the last 18 months or so is whatever other people think of us, frankly, bluntly, none of our fucking business.
No, totally agree with you.
Right? None of our business. I can't influence it.
No.
So let it go. If they want to think and feel that about me, fine.
And there's nothing you can do about the way people view you. And that's also okay, because when we accept and understand that they're viewing us through their lens. And the interesting thing is when I first heard that years ago, I got it, but it took me a little while to actually understand it and practice it. Then if I had a judgment coming from somebody and what they thought of me, I was like, that's not really true. I got to the point where I was going, well, what is true? Do I like me? Right. Okay. Am I being true? If I'm aggravated by something that I'm being judged at or had a go at or whatever, my first response is to work with that aggravation, because if I'm aggravated, it's because there's a wound there and I'm responsible for that. And then it is compassion. Love them anyway.
Yeah, look,
Because
and that's how we deal with a lot of the resentments that we have in recovery. And we would say, well, we pray for them,
absolutely.
not praying for us, and
No,
we don't pray that they feel better about us.
no. We
We
pray that
we pray that they get better.
they just feel more into their hearts and they see everybody as an
Yeah,
equal and just love, acceptance, and
yeah,
compassion actually is a big one for me in all
yeah.
of this.
And wasting energy trying to change what other people think of you.
Well, but then also, okay, say you were able to do that. Isn't that control? Isn't that the whole
Yeah,
point? Like, let go
yeah.
of it. It's not your business. It's not your deal.
Just
It's not your responsibility.
yeah,
But the practice of that every day is key. And that will lead to that harmonious feeling that you speak about.
yeah. Just do the next right thing, right, and everything. The other stuff will just come, right.
Just for today, inside out,
Yeah.
isn't it? I think you're the bee's knees. I think you are epic. I love you to bits. And in actual fact, on the back of my phone, there's a sticker that you gave me. So I think of you most days or every day, every time I see it, because it's on my business phone, and it's be the reason that someone smiles today is the sticker you gave me. And I think you are the reason a lot of people smile. Andrew, I've just got one last question for you, please. If you could answer this, what would you say is your greatest learning in life, or the statement that defines what your life has taught you?
Probably comes from the Serenity Prayer. Accept the things you cannot change.
Love that. Yeah.
Because that in itself is just so freeing. And look, and this isn't a magic program of reprogramming oneself. All right, this does not get rid of those character defects that I have. I still have the same character defects that I've always had. Right, I'm still impatient. I'm still judgmental. I can still react to things. But what I'm able to do when my instinctive reaction to something is coming up, I'm able to recognize it coming up in me and stopping, right?
Yes.
So when I'm in the car, for example, if I want to get out of my way, right, that will still come out of my mouth, right? But what I'm able to do with it, get out of my way, I go, oh, come on, mate.
Coach yourself down.
Come on.
Yeah.
Is it going to make that much of a difference? No, it's not. And then just go, right, okay. Right, so I'm still full of fault.
Well, as human beings, we are.
Yeah, right. And I'm all right with it.
Totally.
I am quicker able to address my behaviours.
I love that. It's almost like I've got an image of a volume knob being turned down, like the intensity knob, right? So that therefore beforehand it was probably quite loud and leery and the intense was much. By working these steps daily, and I know that this is true for me because I do my own version of this, is that volume of that unlovely, that reactory part of me, the patience that might be 10 out of 10, like heightened, is a lot less. So has it gone? Absolutely not, just like you. But the intensity of it is a lot less, which means it's more manageable.
Exactly. And I don't need to do anything with it.
No.
Because I would spend energy going, right, I'm going to show them. They're getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't need to. Like, okay, no. Right. Yeah. And it doesn't stop me, picking up the phone to someone and having a rant.
No, speaking your mind, absolutely. Right? But you do it in a very different way.
Right. So now in my program of recovery, if there's got something that's particularly irked me, we learn to share it with others, right? So I might phone a friend in recovery and I'll go, mate, I just need to tell you something, and it'll have nothing to do with him whatsoever. And he'll go, okay, and I'll go, I just need you to hear this, and I'll go, blah, there it is. Oh, you wouldn't believe this bloke, right? He said what he did, blah, 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 and then they said what they did. Oh, what? And this really got me fed up, right? Right?
It's true. It's like a
right?
verbal journal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I've got one friend in recovery in particular. I'll call him Rich. That I'll ring and I go, I don't need you to comment, mate. I'm just gonna get this out and go, and I'll blurt it out.
And then you just hang up.
And he'll go, right, is that it? I go, yeah, done. He said, can you do anything about it? I go, nope. And I'm just getting out there. It's gone. Cheers,
Brilliant.
mate. See you later.
Yeah, that's it. But that's it. That's why I call it the verbal journal. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's no longer in there getting all tangled up with everything else.
Yeah. And of course, one of the other things that we have to learn when we try and live this way, and we don't do it perfectly, all right? And that's another thing, is if we don't suddenly become amazingly perfect individuals, because I'm very far from it. But also understanding that there's an awful lot of people around us who haven't had the benefits of somebody taking them through this as a program of recovery. And
you are going to be that person for that person.
So and we will quite often say to each other in recovery, as people are sharing stuff that might be coming from their partners or other members of their family that are talking about their illness, and we often have to remind ourselves that those people don't have a program.
No.
They haven't learned these tools to be able to cope with some aspects of our lives.
And that's why when my ex, bless him, who did such an amazing job going through his treatment, I went through a program at the clinic to understand as a wife how to live with an addict in recovery, how to live with someone in recovery. So very rewarding, and it did massively help our relationship. And I learned so much from it, because it helped me become more aware and more compassionate that everybody, let's just be honest, is doing their best. And most of us are winging it. Nobody really knows. We're just trying to, just one day at a time.
That's what we can do.
Yeah. And if I hold space for you, I'd just love it if you could hold space for me. And can you imagine if everybody just had looked after their little corner of the world like that? It would be a very different place. So it is important that we are example. And thank you again for being the example that you are, with demonstrating that these steps work when you work them.
Checks in the post.
You're so welcome. Thank you very much. Until next time. I'm going to miss your smiley face this afternoon now. But thank you, Andrew, as ever. Really appreciate you. Thank you for rewriting these, explaining them. And I would love to know if anybody has any comments, then please reach out and I can give you Andrew's details in the show notes.
I'm TikTok famous.
Well, there we go. That's where we're going to find you. I'm going there now. All right, my lovely. God bless.
Lovely to see you, Vanessa.
And to you,
thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. God bless, sweetie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The invitation is to take a few moments to reflect on what's resonated with you here today. Let us know what you find. Share this episode with those you love to practice your vulnerability and enable deeper connection with self, others, and the world around you. May you feel blessed and loved as you live your days with purpose and presence. Thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing you. I love you.